September 1st, 2020. She was just walking home after a night out with friends. It was late. The streets were quiet. She wasn't afraid. She'd walked this path many times before. But this night was different. She never made it home. By the time the sun rose, Lorraine Cox had vanished. No calls. No messages. No sign of where she had gone. What her loved ones didn't know was that a man had been following her. A man they had never seen. A man she didn't even know. That man took her to his flat. He smiled. He spoke softly. He waited. And hours later, Lorraine was dead. Her body wasn't found for days. And when it wasn't whole. He didn't bury her. He didn't call for help. He kept her inside his bedroom for over a week. Then he cut her into pieces and carried her out like trash, dumping parts of her in a dark alleyway, and the rest deep in the woods, 6 miles away. But that was only the beginning. What this man did next shocked even the police. This is the story of Lorraine Cox, a kind, joyful, loving woman who became the target of a complete stranger. This is the truth about her final hours and the lies that followed. A case filled with secrets, careful planning, and one of the most heartless attempts to hide a murder. She was 32. Her family called her the heartbeat of their home. Her smile filled every room. Her kindness touched everyone she met. She didn't deserve this. Before we take you through the full story, before we show you what really happened to Lorraine, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt uneasy walking back home at night? Have you ever had the experience of staying out late? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Now, I need you to stay with us as we uncover every detail the killer tried to hide. The murder, the lies, the moment he slipped up, and the justice that followed. Lorraine Cox was 32 years old. To those who knew her best, she wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and above all, she was the heartbeat of her family. Her family described her as the most kind-hearted, loving, and generous person you could ever meet. The kind of woman who would give you the last bit of her lunch, even if she hadn't eaten all day. The kind of friend who always had your back, no matter the distance or the time. She had a laugh that could fill a room, a smile that could light up the darkest day. She was a bright, vibrant soul whose energy never ran out. Those who loved her said they couldn't imagine their lives without her. She was the glue that held them all together. But as much as Lorraine's family adored her, they also worried about her. Like most young women, Lorraine liked to go out with friends, to laugh, to enjoy life. But sometimes, the world felt like a dangerous place. The night of September 1st was no different. Lorraine had plans to go out with friends to a local bar in Exeter. Nothing out of the ordinary. A few drinks, some dancing, maybe a laugh or two. She was looking forward to it, excited to unwind and catch up. Her family would later tell police she was a woman who took precautions. She didn't walk home alone at night. She was cautious. But on this night, Lorraine left the club around 2 a.m. She was fine, or so she thought. Her phone buzzed with a few last-minute texts as she made her way home. She messaged her best friend, telling her she was heading out for the night. Her last message was simple: "I'll be home soon." But something went wrong. She never made it home. Now, for anyone else, it would have been just another night out. But for Lorraine, this night would be the beginning of something horrific. Her family never expected the call they would receive hours later. At first, they thought she might have just stayed out with friends, maybe had a bit too much to drink. But as the hours passed, the worry started to creep in. Then the panic set in. They began calling her, sending texts, trying to reach her. But there was no reply. No word from Lorraine. The phone went straight to voicemail. It wasn't like her. Lorraine was always in touch. Always made sure to check in. But this time nothing. No messages. No updates. Just silence. And that's when the family knew something was wrong. But what they didn't know was that Lorraine's silence wasn't the only thing missing. You see, while Lorraine's family and friends were reaching out to her, a man, someone they didn't know, was already getting rid of the very thing that once held Lorraine's voice. Her phone. He had taken it and was using it to impersonate her, pretending to be her. The killer didn't just want to hide the body. He wanted to keep the lie alive. And he did this with the one thing that could have led them to her sooner, her phone. Messages were sent, texts were replied to, all in an effort to convince everyone Lorraine was just fine, out there somewhere, alive. But Lorraine was gone. And the person who could have helped her the most was the one who betrayed her the worst. It would be days before the truth started to come out. And when it did, it wasn't just the victim that was missing. It was everything they thought they knew about Lorraine's life, and the man who would become the prime suspect. Every story we tell isn't just about what happened, it's about what could happen again. If you care about protecting others, raising awareness, and helping people stay safe, then subscribing and sharing this video might reach the one person who needs it most. Your click could help save a life. Don't underestimate it. Let's go back to the night everything fell apart so we can fully understand what happened. It was the early hours of September 1st. The streets of Exeter were mostly quiet. Streetlights flickered across empty sidewalks. A few bars were still closing, and the last of the night crowds had begun to drift away. Lorraine was seen walking alone through the city center. CCTV footage would later show her, calmly making her way down High Street. Her steps were steady. She didn't seem in any kind of trouble. She looked like she was just heading home, like so many others that night. She wasn't stumbling. She wasn't lost. She was walking with purpose. That was Lorraine, always in control. But someone was watching her. Behind her, in the shadows, a man began to follow. Quietly, at a distance. He didn't make a sound. He didn't call out. He didn't run up to speak with her. He simply followed her, step by step. CCTV would later confirm his presence. A man walking the same path, keeping pace, waiting for the right moment. His face was unfamiliar. No one knew him then. He was just a stranger in the night. But that man would later be known as Azam Mangori. The footage shows Lorraine turning onto a side street. It's a quiet area, just a few shops and narrow alleys. What happens next is hidden from cameras. That was the last time anyone saw Lorraine alive. Back home, the hours began to pass. Lorraine's family noticed the silence almost immediately. She didn't respond to messages. Her phone didn't ring. It wasn't like her to go quiet. Not for this long. They sent more texts. Called again. Still nothing. Her father began to worry. Her partner was getting anxious. Her friends messaged one another, wondering if anyone had heard from her. No one had. By that afternoon, real fear set in. And then, a message came through. It was from Lorraine's phone. The message said she was fine, just needed some time alone, that she'd be in touch soon. Her partner read it over and over. The words didn't sound like Lorraine. Something about it felt off. Still, they wanted to believe it. Maybe she just needed space. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. Maybe she just stayed the night at someone's place. But more messages came, one after the other. Some to her dad, some to friends, some to her partner, all from Lorraine's phone. But none of them felt right. There were spelling mistakes Lorraine never made, phrases she didn't usually use. The tone felt wrong and cold, unfamiliar, and most likely it sounded robotic. And Lorraine still didn't call. Police were contacted. A missing persons report was filed. Flyers were printed. Friends and volunteers hit the streets. They searched alleyways, parks, quiet corners of the city, hoping to find Lorraine, hoping she was okay. But they didn't know the truth yet. They didn't know that Lorraine never sent those messages, because Lorraine was already gone, and the man who had followed her off the street had taken her to a flat above a kebab shop. That man didn't just hurt her. He took away her voice, her name, her identity. And while everyone else was searching for Lorraine, he was already planning how to make her disappear for good. Azam Mangori wasn't just pretending Lorraine was alive. He was hiding something sickening. And when the truth came out, it would shock everyone. The man who followed Lorraine that night wasn't from Exeter. He didn't grow up there. He didn't have many friends. He didn't have a job. His name was Azam Mangori. He was 24 years old, born in Iraq. A Kurdish man who came to the UK seeking asylum. But his claim was denied in 2018. Even though the UK had told him to leave the country, he stayed. Quietly. Without papers. Without permission. He moved around, staying under the radar. No one really knew much about him. At the time Lorraine went missing, he was living above a kebab shop in Exeter. Bodrum Kebab House. Right in the middle of town. If you walked past it, you'd never guess someone like him lived upstairs. He rarely spoke to people. Didn't smile much. Kept to himself. Even the workers at the shop below didn't know him well. His bedroom was small. Cluttered. Dark. He kept the windows shut. The curtains drawn. He didn't let anyone in. It wasn't a home. It was a hiding place. Police would later find that Mangori had almost no real life outside of that flat. He didn't work. He spent most of his time online, watching videos, searching for things, strange things, disturbing things. In the weeks leading up to Lorraine's death, Mangori's internet history showed something deeply troubling. He had watched videos about amputation, how to cut through bone, how to dismember a body. He read articles, took notes. He even searched for how to dig a grave by hand. One search stood out more than the rest. Just days before Lorraine vanished, Mangori looked up how to hide a body. I mean, this is crazy. This wasn't panic. This wasn't fear. These were plans. He had also bought things. Things that didn't make sense unless you knew what was coming. He bought bin bags, strong tape, an air purifier, a suitcase, a small trowel, all paid for in cash, all bought in person, all caught on camera. No one questioned him. No one knew what he was really doing. When police later asked him why he didn't report Lorraine's death, he said he was scared. He claimed he panicked because he thought he'd be deported. But was that the truth? Or was it just an excuse? He told the court that Lorraine passed out in his room after drinking and smoking something. He said she died suddenly, and he didn't know what to do. That's why he kept her body. That's why he cut her up. But his story didn't make sense. Or does it make any sense to you? Let me know in the comments section. Why impersonate her online? Why send texts to her family? Why search for body disposal techniques days before she even went missing? Was it really fear that made him do it? Or had he been planning something long before Lorraine ever walked past that kebab shop? Even the judge didn't believe it was all panic. Because Azam didn't just hide Lorraine's body. He kept it. For 8 days. In his room. While eating. Sleeping. Sitting just feet away from her remains. What kind of person does that? What else was he hiding behind that locked door? And why did he study death like it was a hobby? Whatever secrets Mangori held inside that room, the truth was about to come pouring out. Inside that small, silent room above the kebab shop, Lorraine Cox was dead, and Azam Mangori didn't call for help. He didn't tell anyone. He shut the door and carried on with his life. 8 days passed. 8 days. Her body lay in his bedroom while people searched the streets. Her friends posted missing flyers. Her family begged for information. Police started combing through CCTV. But Mangori didn't join the search. He stayed quiet. He went to shops. He bought things, one by one, like he was following a list. At night, he stayed in that room. And what he did next would scar everyone who heard it. He began cutting Lorraine's body apart. He told the court he panicked, that he didn't know what else to do. But that wasn't the full truth. The searches on his phone proved it. He'd already looked up what to do with a dead body, long before Lorraine ever died. He wasn't panicking. He was following a plan. Let's stop here and look at where he left her. Part of Lorraine's remains were dumped in an alleyway, just steps away from Mangori's flat, hidden behind bins, wrapped in tape, left like garbage. But the rest were taken far away, to woodland in Newton Street, Sears, a quiet, forested area 6 miles from the city. Secluded, hard to find. That's where he buried her. The police later built a detailed timeline. CCTV caught Mangori walking to different stores, buying the supplies. They found footage of him dragging a suitcase. They tracked his steps through town, following the trail of evidence he tried to cover up. What they found in his flat was horrifying. Blood stains, air fresheners, a blade, gloves, her phone, her SIM card, and his phone, filled with searches that turned this from a sudden accident into something far darker. He used Lorraine's SIM card. He sent messages to her family, her friends, pretending she was still alive. He typed out words in her style, like she was still breathing, like she had just left town. But Lorraine wasn't anywhere. Not alive, not safe. She was in pieces, in bags, in soil. And all that time, Mangori stayed calm. He cleaned up. He got rid of her things. He deleted data. He tried to make her vanish completely. But the walls were closing in, and the mask he was wearing was starting to crack. Let's get to understand how he was finally caught. Mangori thought he was smart enough to cover his tracks, but investigators were already closing in. They started with the CCTV. Every corner of Exeter, every camera that captured him. They watched his movements frame by frame. One clip showed him entering a shop, calm, casual, buying bin bags and duct tape. A few hours later, another camera caught him again, buying a suitcase. Then came something darker. He walked into a hardware store and picked up a trowel. Not a shovel. A trowel. Small, discreet, easy to hide. These weren't panic buys. They were methodical, planned. Police pulled his internet history. The search terms were chilling. How to dig a grave by hand. How long before a body smells? Can police trace body parts? But the real breakthrough came from Lorraine's phone. The SIM card had been moved to another device, and the phone data didn't match her usual habits. Different typing speed, different grammar, different login times. And the IP address? It led straight to Mangori's flat. Officers paid him a visit. He answered the door. Quiet, calm, not nervous, just flat. They asked questions. He gave vague answers. Said he didn't know Lorraine. Then changed his story, said she came over briefly, but left. The lies didn't line up. His timelines didn't match the CCTV. That was enough for a warrant. And what they found inside that flat was horrifying. A smell hit them first. Sweet and rotten. Heavy in the air. They opened the windows. Looked around. Tucked in the corner of the room, an air purifier. They found Lorraine's clothes. A few strands of hair. A stained mattress. Then came the horror. In the alley next to the kebab shop, they found bin bags. Inside, wrapped tightly, were human remains. More pieces were later discovered in woodland, over 6 miles away. Buried. Scattered. Azam Mangori was arrested. Charged with murder. And for the first time, he started to talk. He claimed she collapsed in his room. That she had been drinking and smoking a strange drug. He said he panicked. Said he didn't want to call the police because he feared deportation. So he kept her body in the room for 8 days, then dismembered her. He said he didn't mean to hurt her, that he only wanted to get rid of the body. But the prosecution wasn't buying it. They had evidence Mangori had watched amputation videos before Lorraine disappeared, that he researched how to dispose of remains days in advance. They told the jury this wasn't panic. It was calculated, and that Lorraine Cox never had a chance. It took months to bring the case to trial. When it finally began, the courtroom at Exeter Crown Court was silent. All eyes were on Azam Mangori, the man who claimed he had simply panicked. The trial lasted 4 weeks. In that time, the jury listened to hours of disturbing evidence. Graphic, haunting details of what happened to Lorraine Cox after she disappeared. Mangori sat motionless, sometimes staring at the floor, sometimes at nothing at all. His defense was simple. He said Lorraine came to his flat willingly, that she drank, smoked something unknown, and collapsed. He claimed she died on her own. He said he was scared of being deported, scared no one would believe him. So he didn't call for help, didn't report her death. Instead, he kept her body in the room for 8 days. And then he cut it into pieces. The courtroom was still. Jurors leaned in. Lorraine's family sat frozen. But the prosecution called him a fluent and determined liar. They said nothing about his behavior pointed to fear. It pointed to calculation. They showed his search history, the videos he watched before Lorraine even disappeared. Amputation guides. How to dig a grave. How to hide a body. They revealed a t-shirt had been forced into her mouth and wrapped tightly around her head. Forensics said it was likely the cause of death. She had been smothered, not overdosed. The air in the courtroom thickened. One of Lorraine's relatives broke down as her final moments were described. Another wiped tears, holding back sobs. Her father sat quietly, jaw clenched, hands gripping the bench. The jury heard how Mangori used Lorraine's phone to send fake messages, pretending she was still alive, giving her family false hope. 8 days of waiting, 8 days of lies, 8 days while he planned how to make her disappear. And still, he showed no emotion. When closing arguments were made, the prosecution didn't hold back. They called Mangori cold, manipulative, and dangerous, a man who had shown no remorse. Then came the jury's turn. They left the courtroom to deliberate. Hours passed. Then, they returned with their decision. He was declared guilty of murder and guilty of preventing a lawful burial. There was no celebration, no cheers, just the sound of Lorraine's family crying quietly. Justice had come with a heavy cost. The courtroom fell silent again as Azam Mangori stood to hear his sentence. He didn't speak. He didn't look at Lorraine's family. He just stood there quiet, emotionless, as if none of it mattered. Mr. Justice Garnham looked him in the eye and spoke clearly, his voice echoing through the chamber. Rather than report her death to anyone, you kept her decomposing body in your bedroom for 8 days. You then set about cutting up her body with a view to disposing of it. Your cowardice in failing to report her death and your attempt to hide the evidence of your crimes compounded the loss and hurt suffered by her family. The words hit hard. Lorraine's father stared straight ahead. One of her friends, sitting behind the family, whispered a prayer under her breath. Then came the sentence. Life in prison. A minimum of 20 years behind bars. No chance of parole before that. No escaping what he'd done. For some, it felt like justice. For others, it would never be enough. Outside the court, Lorraine's family spoke to reporters for the first time after the verdict. Their faces were tired. Their words were raw. We've been mentally and emotionally exhausted, her brother said. Lorraine was the heartbeat of our family. There's now a silence we can't fix. Her father added quietly. We just want people to remember her, not what he did, but who she was. That's what matters. Police officers who worked the case also shared their thoughts. Detective Sergeant Samantha Wenham described Mangori's crimes as disturbing beyond words. He tried everything to mislead, manipulate, and get away with what he did, she said. This was a brutal, calculated murder. Assistant Chief Constable Jim Caldwell didn't hold back either. The way he exploited Lorraine's vulnerability was callous and brutal. He took her life, dismembered her body, and tried to erase her from this world. The public's reaction was swift. News channels ran the story. Headlines filled with disbelief. Social media lit up with fury. People across the country shared Lorraine's photos calling for stronger protections and tougher immigration policies for criminals hiding in plain sight. But in the end, behind all the noise and news coverage, there was still a family trying to piece their life back together. Lorraine Cox had gone out that night just like anyone else. She laughed. She smiled. She walked through the streets thinking she'd be home soon. Instead, she crossed paths with a stranger. And everything changed. What do you think truly drove Azam Mangori to do something so unthinkable? Was it fear? Was it control? Or was it something far more calculated? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and every voice helps keep the memory of Lorraine alive. If this story moved you, please consider supporting this channel. Your likes, your shares, and your subscriptions allow us to continue telling these important stories, to spread awareness, to honor victims, and to speak out against injustice. Please like this video, subscribe for more real-life crime stories, and share this with someone who should know Lorraine's name. She was kind. She was loved. She didn't deserve what happened to her. In loving memory of Lorraine Cox, we will remember you.